let's start about talking about the animals, because they reappear in this exhibition as well, and they have a very special meaning to you.
I've been using animals in my work since the start, actually, since I was studying. I think actually the exhibition with you was the first time that I just used the skin of an animal in an installation.
So death plays a major role in your work. It's actually a major theme in art history. Yeah. It's one of the things we cannot control.
And maybe that's it, actually. Maybe the difference between this new body of work and the previous body of work was that I was trying to exert some kind of control on it in order to understand it or process it in some way. So I guess in this work, the presences of the animals is much more violent in a way. There's not really any kind of hiding from their state. But that's kind of how things are in life, isn't it? You know, like things happen and you can't make them unhappen.
And maybe we should also talk about where the animals come from, because they're roadkill. They've been killed on the road by cars and in other accidents. So it's not that you kill them, but that's an important point. And it's it's really important. And we also have to talk about what kind of animals you use.
Almost all the animals in this show are ones that live kind of in the same environment as me. And I think foxes, they're the biggest mammal that, except for us, that lives in the city with us. So.
The fox is a reappearing motive in your work, and it's very strong. And you once mentioned that you were impressed by the fact that they live with us, but they don't care about us. They sneak into the cities, but they have their own life. They're independent. They're not dependent on our caring.
Like, it invites a question like, why not offer some kind of care or tenderness to something or someone that doesn't necessarily give you anything back or do anything for you in return. Yeah, because our society is very driven by progress and selling stuff.
But I think the fox is also much more than that. It's almost like an alter ego for you. I think it's very closely related to the female figures that appear in your work. And you want to talk and tell us a little bit about this connection?
It's a difficult thing. Like, in these works, it's really important because I know there's the whole side of things about women being closer to nature and closer to the animal and this stuff, and like I love all this stuff. But it was really important for me, and it became very apparent whenever I started making these drawings that I'm not trying to create some kind of mythical imagery. So when I started making these drawings, which they're observational drawings and they're from a model sitting with a fox's skin, she's sitting in very difficult poses, and in order to get the fox's skin to stay where it was supposed to stay, it had to be, so in this picture you can see there's a very fine thread that's tied under a drawing pin on the floor behind it, and in most of these drawings there's some kind of evidence that the fox isn't a live animal. Yeah, I suppose it's about that idea of that it being important to kind of foster some kind of connection, but also with an acknowledgement that the point that you're starting from isn't necessarily ideal, but you still have to find a way to make it work somehow.
So it's not a romantic image at all.
No. But I think it's important that we deal with stuff in that way. Like, I mean, if you think about the climate crisis or all sorts of other horrible things happening in the world at the moment, I worked with someone who was kind of physically similar to me, I guess. I don't think it needs to be me.
We see that she's not perfect. And I think that was one of the very strong moments in your new work, very strong feminist statement to me, that there is a big difference to the traditional representation of the female body. It's not a sexualized body, it's a self-assured body. It's a body that is not idealistic. It's a body that went through several fights and difficult situations. And I think it's also a body that is very resilient. It's presented in poses we don't know yet. They are very enigmatic, and referring and playing with the fox, dealing with the fox, gives her a totally different appearance.
Yeah. I just say actually about the positions that the figure's sitting in. I worked with this model to intentionally find positions that were really uncomfortable, and that were positions of kind of strain or balance or some kind of discomfort. There was a lot of trust and compromise, I guess, in the process of actually making them, which was important.
You're talking about blood drawings. Mm-hmm. Those are created by in the process of taxidermy, in the process of taking the animal apart, and the traces of blood and body fluids that are left on the paper are part of the drawing. They become part of the image, they become part of the picture. It's like a performative process where you move the animal around, and it's not for an audience, it's just happening in your studio space.
I can really feel a kind of privilege actually to have the opportunity to handle a body in that way and to be able to understand what goes on inside it. And then the process of making the drawings is, I guess like the marks that are left on the page is sort of like trying to quantify what the animal was, or what its life was, or what's the difference between it whenever it's alive and whenever it's dead, what's changed.
It's actually what is left after life has gone, after life has left the body. So but it's still, I guess it's still
moving. Like a process of trying to quantify that in the way that the woman in the drawings is interacting with the fox. It's kind of trying to find some point of compromise or support.
And that's also why the female figure is naked, because she's not a cultural being in these pictures. She's a natural being, and she's nothing but another animal. Exactly.
We are animals.
Yeah. The animals you prepare or work on are not perfect. They often have injuries, and you make it visible.
I don't think my work's ever been happy. Ever. I know that things previously maybe they have been colourful, but if they're colourful, it's always this synthetic plastic, so it's kind of an illusion in a way. Like my work has always really stemmed from grief in one way or another, and thinking about the passing of time and not being able to turn it back and all those things. That's why it was so controlled before. It was kind of about trying to control that, because I thought that was the way to deal with it. Like obviously I want the work to make people think about our relationships with other animals, what we do to other animals, what we do to each other. And I think that denial of death and fear of kind of acknowledging its existence is a big part of why we've got such a terrible relationship with the rest of the natural world, because the natural world is the embodiment of death, really, in a way, or mortality. You can't separate those two things from each other. So if we want to pretend that we're not going to die, then we need to not be animals. So we separate ourselves from animals, and then that's where everything goes wrong.
If there are not any more questions, thank you, Claire.
Thank you very much.
And thank you for your attention and for coming here.